That's why many times people ask me, I want to read my Bible, where do I start? Go to the Gospel of John. Go to the Gospel of John. It's simple, but it is so powerful. But it's an apologetic. It serves to defend our faith. You know, again, it sets forth our case as believers. John's Gospel is written to reveal to the world the true nature of Christ and to state our case why we believe that Jesus is who He said He is. It sets forth our case. Merrill Tenney says there's no defense so adequate as truth. I mean, just tell the truth. Isn't that what we tell our kids? We had 2 rules at our house: tell the truth and obey. That covers a lot of territory, doesn't it? But just tell the truth. Merrill Tenney says there's no defense so adequate as truth. And the simple recital of what actually took place is the surest method of confirming faith. Just tell the truth. This is what happened. He did walk on the water. I saw it. He did raise Lazarus from the dead. I saw it. This is the truth. There are 3 key words in this passage that relate to the reason John wrote. The first key word is signs. Look at that. Therefore, many other signs Jesus also performed. As I said, a sign is a miracle. And signs have to do with, the revelation of God. The revelation of God. The word signs is a word that John uses, means attesting miracle. In other words, there's a message behind the miracle. John remembered, John selected 7 major miracles that in his opinion made a point that he wrote about. Okay? So these miracles were recorded, John says, so that you can believe, so that we can believe. So a sign is something that points to something, you know, like when we see a sign on the highway, the sign's not the big deal. It just tells us which direction to go. Or it tells us about a place that we're looking for. We see the sign. The sign is just there to point us to something bigger. And that's what John says about these miracles. They point us to God. So as John has built his gospel around these 7 major miracles, these signs, they have a message. They have a message. The fact that Jesus did many miracles lets us know that these were not isolated events. You know, something you could maybe deceive somebody into thinking something happened one time. Or maybe you could exaggerate and think something happened, make somebody believe. But sign after sign after sign. John uses these miracles as what we would call in a court of law material witnesses for underlying spiritual truth. Now think about it. When Jesus walked on the water and He calmed the storm, what's the message in that miracle? That Jesus is Lord over nature. Jesus is Lord over natural events. Jesus can walk on water. Jesus can calm the storm. When Jesus fed the 5,000, and then He declared, I am the bread of life. What's the message in the miracle? I mean, it's not that Jesus had such great fingers. He could break bread real small and break fish real small. They collected 12 baskets full when He got through. What was Jesus doing with the fish and the bread? He was creating food. He was creating fish as He broke the fish. He was creating bread as He broke the bread. He is the Creator. He is Lord over creation. When Jesus was standing in Tuscaloosa, stay with me, and healed a guy down in Gordo without even going to Gordo, the nobleman's son. He's Lord over time and space. I remember being in the plane that touched down in St. Petersburg, Russia, and the thought that first came to me is that, God, you're here too. I mean, this is a long way from Evergreen, Alabama. How can you be in St. Petersburg, Russia, and Evergreen's the same? He is God over space. He's not confined by space. So there's a message in every miracle. Guess what Jesus was trying to teach us when He raised Lazarus from the dead? Oh, grave, where's your victory? Death, where's your sting? We don't have to worry about that anymore. Because I am, Jesus said, the resurrection and the life. He who believes in me will live even if he dies. I am the resurrection and the life. So this is how God reveals Himself to us, through these miracles. That's why Nicodemus came to Jesus that night and said, Rabbi, we know that you have come from God. For nobody can do these signs that you do unless God is with him. We've gotten the message. Tell me now, how can I have the life? That's the question in it. We've gotten the message. Now how can I have the life? The reason for the sign is to stir our hearts to believe. Belief is the response of man. Belief is the response of man. Listen carefully what John is saying in these two verses. It is as if he is saying, I knew a lot of things about Jesus Christ, but I did not put them down here because I was not writing a biography, but preaching a gospel. I was not writing a biography, but I was preaching a gospel. There are many other things, many other signs I could have written about. There are many other details I could have written about Jesus that would fill up the whole world with books. But I've written these as a gospel. And when we preach the gospel, we preach for results, don't we? And the result that John is looking for is belief. You always preach the gospel for a response. And the response to the gospel of John is one of two. You can accept it or you can reject it. John is writing to produce, to create. God has ordained that the means by which faith comes into the hearts of men and women is through the preaching of the gospel. It's not going to be, airplanes with signs. It's not going to be letters in the dirt. It's going to be through the preaching of the gospel. John uses the word believe 98 times in his writing. It means to trust or to commit. It does not simply mean to assent to or agree with a fact. James says the demons also believe and tremble. But it involves a personal claim, a commitment. So what does John want us to believe about Christ? First of all, that Jesus is the Christ. The word Christ in the Greek and the word Messiah in the Hebrew both mean the anointed one. That he is the anointed one sent from God. That he is the deliverer sent from God. He is the hope of every Jewish boy and girl ever born. He is the Messiah, the anointed one. But remember what God told Abraham. He said, through you, all the nations will be blessed. Jesus is not just the Jewish Messiah or the Christ. He is the deliverer for all the nations that shall be blessed through him. For I'm not ashamed of the gospel, Paul says. For it's the power of God unto salvation to everyone who believes, to the Jew first, but also to the Greek. He is our deliverer. He is God's anointed one for us. He is our only hope. He is the Christ. He is the one that we've been looking for. We've been looking for hope and deliverance and meaning and purpose in all the wrong places, but we can find that in a relationship with Christ. And you will not find it anywhere else. He is the Christ. In short, Jesus is the hope offered to the nation of Israel and to the world. Jesus is the Son of God. And again, this is a term that's packed with meaning. It was not as if Jesus was making himself out to be another prophet or another follower of Jehovah God. He was not a son of God. He was the Son of God. In John chapter 5, verse 18. Let's turn over there because I want you to, if you didn't mark this when we were studying, I want you to see this. Because I've had conversations, you've probably had conversations with people who call themselves Christians, but who will tell you Jesus never said he was God. When he says, oh, I and the Father are one, that means that we simply agree. But John 5:18, for this reason, therefore the Jews were seeking all the more to kill him, because he not only was breaking the Sabbath, but also was calling God his own Father, making himself what? Equal with God. Equal with God. In the beginning was the Word. The Word was with God, and the Word was God.